Cinco de Mayo as we are sponsored the Night's Report by Avion Tequila. And perfect timing for this as we, nice. Shane Knighty representing right now with Avion Tequila. Dan Duva wondering where his T-shirt and his tequila are right now. We put a strict policy in, no shots until after this Night's Report. Gary Lawless joining us as well as veteran Vegas Golden Knight forward Paul Stastny. And Paul, a happy Cinco de Mayo to you. How are you holding up?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great, given the circumstances, seeing some progress, seeing some hockey talk come out of it. So we are following it with great interest. From a player perspective, how much do you check in on what's moving and what's shaking loose on the return and the second phase of this?
Yeah, I think not as much to watch. Not the hockey news every day doesn't really fascinate me because it's the same stuff. It's just a bunch of talk. I think I kind of just see what's going on in the U.S. in general, and kind of just take it week to week. So when you're caught up in this and when you've been in lockdown for a while, I think 1 day feels like 2 weeks or 2 weeks feels like 1 day. So I try to every 2 weeks try to update myself, see where it is, because so much changes and there's so much fluidity in the whole situation with vaccines or antivirals or antibody testing. So that's going to change everything. So I kind of take it as a, May 1st and then May 15th, get an update, see what's going on. But, there's so many different scenarios being played out that people get excited over certain things, but nothing's concrete at all.
Paul, when you talk with your teammates or other guys who are in the National Hockey League, maybe former teammates, what are the things that you guys are talking about when you chat?
Well, our chat, at least here, we're on top of it. So every time there's a PA meeting or a conference call, I think, within 5 minutes we get on team chat and just get an update on all that. And then, I think everyone's antsy, especially all the young guys. I think who don't have kids, I think sometimes they're long days, but everyone's antsy to get back. And I think more than anything, it's easy for some players to stay motivated just because they've been doing it for a long time, but I think that's the mental part of the game. That's tough to do. And sometimes I think if they don't see light at the tunnel, if they don't know it, then some guys can, try to stay motivated. Then they they have kind of peaks and valleys a little bit. So I think what everyone's really trying to get is try to find out not a concrete date, but just a window where things will kind of start speeding up a little bit. And, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll know more.
Oh, I don't want to say, well, you're one of the older guys, but you're still young to me. But you've been around, you've been through, lockouts, you've been through times, things. This is different, of course, but yourself, is there experience now in kind of knowing your body and what you need to do maybe to stay in shape, or has this helped you in some ways maybe to just complete health?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of both. I think it's helped me a little bit just because I had something, at the end of the summer, so strength wise, it's hard to kind of get back to 100%. So I think this little time off, was good for that. And at the same time as you can kind of tweak a few things and try different things out in the meantime. And it's also easier for me because, we don't eat out a lot. We got kids. I grew up in a family where we cooked all the time. So for us, that's the easy part. So it's easier to stay on top of everything with the diet. But, at the same time, it's a challenge for everyone, but you got to take it as it is, and you got to either be, positive or kind of woe is me attitude. And, if you just kind of take it day by day, before you know it, it flies by. And like I was telling my wife, it's already been, I think it's been 7 weeks, hasn't it? Maybe, or 6 weeks since at least Vegas shut down. And, sometimes it feels like it's been a year, and sometimes it feels like it was yesterday when it shut down. So we just kind of take it day by day.
Well, you have a fascinating family hockey history with your father and his brothers coming over from Europe at leaving leaving Slovakia, and I guess it was Czechoslovakia at the time, but in a pretty difficult time. Have you talked to your father about his experiences going through a real crazy time in his life and this experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's apple and oranges. You can't really compare that, but I think. No. I mean, I think this is just so unpredictable. It's so new. It's something that the whole world's. It's not just one region of the world. So it's, basically started out east and just slowly making its way, west, north, and south. It's kind of, it's something no one's ever been part of. So I think it's very unique, and you kind of learn new things every day, and you really try to compare with things that happened in the past, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to compare because, it doesn't repeat itself. It just kind of rhymes a little bit. So in that sense, it's, it's kind of a wait and see thing. And it's tough because I think every day you read something good, and so you get excited. You think, okay, things are going to turn around. And then all of a sudden the next day it's like, you hear more bad news. And then you get down thinking, okay, now we're going to be locked down even longer. So that's the part that's just the emotional roller coaster.
I'm curious, do you do any, you're a student of the game, do you reflect on your season this year at all? And how would you give it a report card?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I always do. I self-evaluate, but I think, like I said, I think the first half season, it was just, numbers-wise, it was brutal for me, but it wasn't, there was like a 20-game span there where it was just tough, and I was kind of hard on myself, mentally really tough. And then I kind of just, I don't want to say relaxed a little bit. I just kind of wanted to get back to enjoying the game a little bit and just have fun with it. And I felt the last 20, 30 games, I felt like myself again and kind of found my groove. And I think it's a combination of that mental part of the game I was telling you guys about, where the way things ended last year, I think I was excited, and all of a sudden, you really put a lot of pressure on yourself, and you had high expectations. And, sometimes you do that and you realize it's a new year, there's new challenges, and, nothing, everyone starts from fresh, so nothing's ever given to you. So, year 14, I'm still learning new things and still kind of trying to figure it out, but it's been a challenge, but it's been, I feel like I've overcome some obstacles, and I feel better for it.
Dan, just to jump back in there, where did that transition come from? Who instigated that? Was that yourself? Was it a teammate, maybe your dad, or just did it occur naturally at the 20-game mark?
I don't even think it was a 20-game mark. I think there was just like a 20-game window there where like between games, 10 and 30 or something. And I just, wasn't, things weren't going my way. The puck wasn't bouncing. And there was times where, things were going well, and then you weren't getting numbers. And there was times where you could do everything you could and you're getting minuses, and those are things that, I take pride in. And, I always know that whether, it's a long season, it's going to even itself out, or eventually, you might have an unfortunate season and the next season will kind of take care of itself. But, I think my dad helped me out a lot there. And actually my wife was really good. My wife kind of just said, take a breather, relax, kind of enjoy life a little bit, don't be so focused on this and that, like enjoy family time, go for a walk with the kid, get outside, get away from the game a little bit. And, it actually helped a lot.
Paul, have you watched any of the Michael Jordan documentary?
Oh yeah. I'm loving them.
Because, you talk about mindset and motivation, and the episodes that aired over the weekend, Michael Jordan talks about having a competitiveness problem. He might have some other problems, but he can't stop being competitive. So when you talk about your motivations and kind of what drives you, how does competitiveness fit into that? Whether it's during a normal season, and what it's like for hockey players who are so competitive, whether it's on the ice or playing cards or whatever else.
Yeah, well, I think so. There's guys that are I know some, like, I'm really competitive, but I won't. I think Michael Jordan was like very emotional, so he was very raw, didn't care. He would just, you could see it right away. And we have certain guys in our teams that are like that, and there's certain guys that, are emotional or hide their emotions a little bit. Kind of stay cool and calm, but on the inside, there's always kind of fire burning. So that's why it's fun to see, because, obviously Jordan is the best, one of the best ever, because of obviously a mix of his, the way he thinks the game, the way he plays the game, his athletic ability and his drive. It's a combination of everything. So I think that's why it's fun to watch, because everyone sometimes thinks that the best players in the world are just the ones that are most talented or most skilled, or, can think the game the best. But, what the difference between, Michael Jordan and, somebody else, they might have the same talent or athletic ability, but, one just has a drive to do it every single day. And, it's easy to say, I want to be the best. It's easy to say, I want to work out 5 days a week, but if you're not feeling well, or, if you went out the night before, are you sleeping in, are you kind of maintain your diet during the season and in the off season, are you changing your body when you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 35. So there's so many things like that. And when you watch those documentaries, it just, it's exciting to watch, because those are the guys you look up to, and you realize that, it just wasn't kind of the raw skill that made them who they are.
And just to follow up on that, since you mentioned you played with some pretty good players when you started out, who did you maybe learn the most from early in your career in year 1, year 2, whatever it may have been in Colorado?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys.
Pretty good team.
Whether it was like Joe Sakic, Adam Foote, and Ian LePerriere. So LePerriere, 3 different players, but they all were in this kind of same phase of their careers, and you could just see how much they changed and the ways they took care of their body, whether it was the way they dieted, the way they worked out, the way they approached their games, the way they looked after the kids and enjoyed the family life as much as they did the hockey life. And both those, LePerriere extended, kept playing for another 3-4 years, and then obviously he had injuries, so he had to stop. Footy played till he was 38, 39. Sakic played till he was about 40. So it was cool to see, and you laughed at it because you're so young, and realizing like thinking like, what are they doing? But I don't say they were ahead of their time, but they just knew their body and they knew how to adapt from the way the game changed from when they first came in the league to 10, 15 years later when the game evolves.
Paul, what have you picked up, or what are you doing for fun? Have you learned something? Have you picked up the guitar, or are you cooking a new recipe? What's going on for you since we last saw you?
No, but I want to play the guitar and I want to play the piano because I love music. And when people do it, it looks so easy. But that's something when I'm done playing, I'm going to try to do that. What have I picked up? You know what? My workouts I've been doing to start my workouts for fun. It's been doing a lot of juggling just for fun, kind of hand-eye coordination. And I couldn't do it at all. And I started slow and now I've been doing it for 5-6 weeks. And I'm almost surprised myself the way I can do it. So it's fun. It's fun doing stuff like that and kind of seeing the process of week by weekend better and better. So it's nothing special, but it's cool to see that, if you put your mind to something and you just do it every day for a couple minutes, how much of a difference it makes.
You don't have them handy, do you?
No, I don't.
Oh, we'd love to see it.
Have you juggled anything breakable yet?
No. Trust me. I just bought like racket balls or these foam balls. Keep it simple. Because then what happens if I'll do it, then the kids will get in there and they'll start playing and start throwing in. You don't want that.
Rollerblades. Everybody seems to be jumping on this. Do you have a pair?
Yeah, I got a patch on an extra pair of blades. So those like Mars blades, the ones that are kind of suited for hockey or for ice hockey. So had the equipment guy on our team, put them on my old pair of skates, and I'll go with Theo's got a pair of rollerblades too. We live in the same neighborhood, so what we'll do is we'll kind of do like hills. We'll go all the way up the hill in the neighborhood we live in, and then we'll cruise down and go back up and do that a couple of times just to get a nice little burn.
There you go. So you can keep the body fresh. Paul, we know you keep your mind fresh too, with whether it's a reading. And I'd be curious to know what's on your reading list and the kinds of things that you're reading, not necessarily the news, just self-improvement stuff and business stuff or podcasts. So what about that area?
Right now I'm reading one of the Ryan Holiday books, like The Daily Stoic. I think it's like just one chapter is basically every day of so there's 365 chapters, and they're like just short stories about these, I don't know, very simple read, but just kind of like refresh your mind and a lot of stuff that, it becomes second nature to me, but it's probably because the way I was raised and the way I was taught certain things. I've been a lot of finance been fun for me, fun to keep up with what's going on and just learn as much as I can, just because same thing. My dad's always been big on that. And when he was done playing, all the guy would watch is the news and finance. And it kind of drove me crazy. Now as I'm getting older, I'm kind of following that same footstep. And it's been fun to do and kind of pick people's brains about different things like that. And then what else am I reading? I don't know, just anything. I like to read a lot. Sometimes early on, you're so exhausted. I mean, you guys know with kids, you don't realize that when you're at home and just playing with them all day, by the end of the day, you have no time to just put your feet up and relax. Maybe you guys do because your kids are older, but when your kids are younger, they always want to do something. So sometimes it's just nice to sit down. So by the time we get to bed, watch a show, it pretty much lights out for us and we're asleep pretty early.
And then the trick is, I said I'd learn the guitar. I still haven't, even after playing. But I've owned one for 23 years. But now the best thing to do it, my kid plays. So have one of your kids play. That's kind of been the trade-off. It's a lot easier too.
Well, that's what I think one of our we want to do, because my parents, obviously we speak Slovakian, And so my parents will speak Slovakian to the kids, and I'll talk to them a little bit. But my wife's like, yeah, we should get a tutor like once a week. And I was like, that'd be unreal, because I would sit in on that just to keep refreshing my brain, So that's something, that's for sure. That's a good point to do, especially with the kids, because it makes it fun.
That's how I did it. Took my kid to guitar lessons and then just thought, what, I'm sitting here. Might as well try and chime in on it. Thanks for doing this. The hair looks good. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, it's hanging on, trying to keep it, getting long, but what are you going to do?
Paul Stastny, thank you very much.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Doing some hockey talk with the Knights Report, brought to you by Avion Tequila, Darren Millard, Shane Nadi, Dan Duva, and Gary Lawless. And Gary, the big news from the league and the hockey side of it this week will be what happens with the National Hockey League draft, which is originally scheduled for late June, but is a moving target, a little fluid right now. Some people want it to happen in June. Others would like it to be happening more towards September. What are you hearing about what's happening?
Well, Gary Bettman had a conference call with the Board of Governors on Monday, and this was one of the topics. It should be noted, there won't be a vote on this. It'll be, he'll sort of say, this is what I want to do, get some feedback from the Board of Governors, and then make his decision. It's pretty clear most GMs are against it. The draft week has become the most important time of the year for hockey commerce in terms of trades, et cetera, et cetera. So, and with all the conditional picks that are attached to the trade deadline and that, have effect at draft day, there's all kinds of things that don't make this perfect. The other side of the coin, however, is that, there's nothing going on. And they don't know when they're going to resume play, and they don't know how late they're going to go and how compressed the off season is going to be. So from a content standpoint, which has to be very much on Gary Bettman's mind right now, it's a great idea. From a logistical standpoint, there are some issues.
Well, the National Hockey League must have watched the National Football League, Dan, and the exposure that it got. So I wonder, do you think that plays a role?
Yeah, it's got to. You think about when this might happen if it doesn't happen in June. In other words, after the NHL season concludes, we still don't know that there is going to be an NHL season. We might just wait and then never actually resume playing hockey, all the while delaying the draft. And that uncertainty would, to me, be even more of a chaotic situation when we talk about the draft, that it's normally in June and the expectations that come with it. It's not only for the general managers and the hockey folks. You think about the athletes who are involved in this, the young guys who are in junior or going to college. Can you imagine if you're in that position waiting all summer and then still not knowing when the draft actually is? You talk about the promotion in the NFL and getting set for this draft. They had all of the technology put in place. That took weeks. We're talking here in early May. It would take a month to get the technology in place to do this in early June. It would be unlike previous NHL drafts. And also, there's nothing else going on. There aren't going to be live games in early June. But by the time, let's say you do it, September, October, whatever, then you're going up against all the other sports that may have resumed by then, college football, the NFL. So at least right now there would be some eyeballs on the NHL draft, and it's just kind of moving things ahead. I wonder if the NHL just wants to get this over and done with, even though it puts limits on teams, just so they can kind of put it aside and then work towards resuming hockey play.
Well, nothing's ever going to be perfect. I think you're right, Dan. You mentioned the young athletes. Let's not forget the European ones. They need to know before. You can't have a short off season in October and these guys get drafted, like, to get them over or whatever it needs to happen. Nothing is going to be perfect that ever anything gets worked out of all of this. It's a different scenario than anybody's ever seen. And I agree with all the comments you guys said. I think right now everybody's starving for something. The NFL draft was so successful. I think it's a good opportunity for the NHL to grab hold of that type of market and do it and provide some content right now. The biggest thing is it's probably hard for general managers. As Gary said, that's the big trading time for them to establish and make moves to build their team. But you want to draft these players, you can't stop time. They're going to get older, and there's going to, by the time you start again, there's next year's group of players that want to get drafted. So you kind of halt all of that, and you can't because time moves on. So I think we're going to see it.
We
in June.
should stipulate that this draft, if they have the draft in June and then they start the season in July, players taken in the June draft will not be able to play. They're not going to alter the competitive balance of this season.
Which is too bad. I think they should let them in. Baseball, remember, Major League Baseball has its draft in June, which is in the middle of the Major League Baseball season. If you get drafted in June, you are eligible to play. In fact, Andrew Miller in 2006 was drafted in the first round to the Detroit Tigers. He was in the College World Series and the Real World Series in the same year.
Well, you can imagine a general manager of a contender would be like, okay, how do I get Alex Lafreniere on my team, or whoever?
That's what I would be intrigued by.
One of those top picks. How do I convince?
Oh, you guys are opening it all up.
Or whoever wins the lottery, how do I convince them to give me that pick? You know, what do I have to move in order? And it would be obviously you could alter the competitive balance of the entire season. We don't want that, as much fun as it would be. The other aspect here is, you know, so Gary Bettman is very soon going to negotiate the next U.S. national TV contract. And NBC is his partner right now in that regard, and they are starved for content. So, you know, I would imagine Sam Flood and the folks at NBC Sports in the hockey department are saying to Gary, we could put on a really great show. And this is, Darren, you've been featured on the NHL draft show nationally in your previous role. The NHL draft is, for a long time, has been the best draft. Like, they have done it better than anybody else. Well, now the playing field is leveled a little bit in terms of, you know, you can't have all the general managers and all their scouts on the draft floor in front of you. This has to be done virtually. The NHL will have, this will be a real challenge for Steve Meyer and the people in events to conjure up. They've already seen the NFL. It's not, won't be good enough to do it just as well as the NFL. They have to do it better, and this will be fascinating leading up to that time.
Just before we leave this topic, we all know the reasons that we'd like to see it in June. Gary, any couple of pointers or opinions on to keep it and put it after any resumption of play?
Well, we could get Kelly McCrimmon to come on here and he'd give you 3 pages worth of reasons why it shouldn't happen now. But, you know, as Gary Bettman has said a number of times, Shane already, you know, went back to it. We're not dealing with perfect here. And this is a completely unknown situation. And, you know, you never want to, I want to be careful how you say it. You don't want to profit off of what's happening right now, but you also need to keep your business floating and moving forward. And this would be an opportunity for the NHL to potentially, you know, put some money in the bank, which is, you know, there's not a lot of that going on right now for professional sports.
And you just think about some of the teams who are building towards the draft, like Montreal, I think has the most surplus draft choices. And maybe in a normal year, they would take those draft picks and trade them for an NHL player, a current NHL player. Well, you can't do that in the current situation. So then Montreal is seemingly at a disadvantage. Its strategy is more affected than some other teams that would have fewer picks. So I would imagine some teams are better situated than others when it comes to making those deals. But it just like with the Golden Knights and how they handled the expansion draft and did some things that were outside of the box that people didn't expect. You would imagine that whether it happens in June or if it happens at the end of the season, teams are going to have to approach this outside the box, outside of the normal approach that they would have for a draft.
Well, 100%. And the other thing is usually when you go to the draft table, your season's over and you've evaluated your own organization and its strengths and weaknesses. Well, that can't happen yet. You can have a partial evaluation, but not the full wholesome picture of your organization that you'd want to have, because if you got to pick and you've decided that we're good at center, or we have a flaw at center, or we need a goalie, you don't have all of those boxes checked when you're going into the draft, which not just Kelly McCrimmon, every general manager in the National Hockey League will be uncomfortable not having that full picture in mind.
Well, I know that we have to do one thing. We have to one-up Belichick's dog. That's first and foremost on it. We'll watch it with great interest. Nothing's perfect, which describes our common conversation about this. A lot of opinions, but nothing determined. This is the Knights Report, brought to you by Avion Tequila. And with that in mind, a couple of fun ones for you. You want to show us that T-shirt there, Shane?
I did. I'm pumping it. I'm waiting for.
Yeah. We'll look at this, and we'll start with you, Shane. In tribute and in honor of Cinco de Mayo, when was your last shot of tequila?
Like shot or drink?
Okay, I'll go shot, and then if you can't remember that, we'll go a drink.
Last shot. You know what? It's probably a week ago.
Well done.
Wow.
Dubes?
Well, I tell you, I do not remember the last time I had a shot at tequila, but I will tell you this. Earlier today, I happened to be exchanging text messages with some people who played in the Cape Cod Baseball League, and I've got this video that's about a decade old, and I was doing a mock interview, right? And the mock interview was not at a baseball field or in a press box, but at somebody's house. And the interview was all about how to properly do a tequila shot. I kid you not, I was watching it this morning. It's priceless. I think I might get some people in trouble if I were to share it, but I got a kick out of that, and I had a hankering for some tequila.
Gary, when was your last shot of tequila?
Sunday.
Yeah, we're tequila drinkers. The lawman and I, but not straight. I like it with, Gary's got a real good concoction. He puts a slice of orange, lime, soda water, and tequila. It's perfect. Real good drink.
Gary, what do you put on your rim if you're having a margarita or something of that?
If I'm having a margarita, I like a salted rim for sure. But I haven't had, a margarita in quite some time. Shane has got me on a health kick, and that means I have to have it with soda. But there's these great flavored sodas. There's zero sugar, 0 calories, 0 carbs. And you mix a little bit of tequila with that on the ice, and Avion is a great way to go. This was not meant to be product placement, but it's fair enough. They make nice tequila. So, yeah, you throw a little hibiscus La Croix, or there's a limoncello La Croix, Dan.
You're talking. Now you're talking. I've been won over. I'm waiting for my samples.
Got a little hint of vanilla in it as well.
Yeah.
I just do water.
They go down too smoothly. You can get in trouble with those ones.
Good stay-at-home defenseman, Shane.
Yeah.
Water.
Simple.
Exactly. And yesterday was May the 4th, which is affectionately known around the world as Star Wars Day. So just because it's going to be fun for me to hear the answers to this. Lawman, Duva, and Shane, which would you rather fly? An X-Wing fighter, a TIE fighter, or the Millennium Falcon? And Lawman, we'll start with you.
Hold on. What did Billy D. Williams, what was the name of his ship?
That was the Millennium Falcon.
No, the Millennium Falcon was.
Well, I know that was Han Solo's, but didn't Billy D. own the Millennium
maybe.
before?
Whatever. Listen, Billy D. What was his character's name?
Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, Lando Calrissian is the greatest character in Star Wars all time. So anything that Billy D. had, and if you could put a what did he do? He did Colt 45 commercials, right? Yeah. So that, yeah.
You know what? It was the simplest question. Which imaginary spaceship do you want to fly? And you turned it into an ambiguous answer about beer.
Do you want simple answers?
No. Dubes.
Harrison Ford, Millennium Falcon. I'll go with Han Solo. Yeah.
Shane, I'm not going to lie to you. This is the answer I was looking forward to the most.
Well, I haven't Last time I was into Star Wars was when I was probably 8.
Yeah, no kidding.
When they first came out or whatever it was. It's been a while. I don't even know what I liked Han Solo. I used to like, was there an episode, the Ewoks? Was that it? Way back?
There is Ewoks, yeah.
What were those things that they had? Like, kind of like, they're like, jet skis or Sea-Doos that.
Oh, yeah. The land speeders.
What were those things?
Those are cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
I honestly, I went over this and I thought this is going to be simple and easy, and we've got 5 different answers from 3 choices.
Well, the Millennial Falcon, I guess. I don't even know what the other 2 are.
Yeah.
Well, the
How
X-wing
about the
was
Death
one.
Star? Like, is that not an option? To
Oh yeah, for sure.
pilot that thing around?
Yeah.
Well,
That's big. That's the biggest one.
Yeah, I don't know how you pilot that thing. That takes
Somebody's
it through.
got to do it.
So I was thinking more like a single pilot thing. Although Hans did have his buddy with them.
I'm surprised, Mallard, that you didn't wear your Star Wars footy pajamas on, because I know you've got a pair.
I do. I am a Star Wars fan. I mean, yeah, I am.
Well, may the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well,
And we are starting to look. What's that?
There's a lot of the Nate Schmidt, Carlson. There's some huge Star Wars guys.
I should have looped Paul in earlier, Paul Stastny, because he's a fan as well. But we're starting to look a little Wookiee-ish, Chewbacca-ish right now. So I thought.
What do you think?
Are you
Shane?
talking
How's
about
it
someone?
coming in?
Oh, Gary, get closer so we can see yours.
Too close, please.
With that in mind, thank you for watching. This has been the Knights Report presented by Avion Tequila. Do a shot, have some fun, be safe, and please be healthy.